Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the beautiful world you are. Welcome to Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And Carlisle, I've missed you.
I've missed you
Welcome
too.
back. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I know it's been so long. From like the span, I think the last time I was on here was like in July or something. From then until now, I've been traveling like every 2 weeks. And so I'm just now, but I was in Europe, which is beautiful. And I was in Florida and Tennessee and North Carolina. I was literally all over the place. So I'm very happy to be back though.
Wow. Were you what, on vacation? Were you on vacay?
For some of them, yes. I went to in Tennessee. I was visiting a friend of mine who was about to have a baby, and we went to this really cool wellness conference specifically for pregnancy, like taking care of your body before you get pregnant, during and after, and natural home birth. And so it was like this expo, and we got like, these goodie bags, and got to learn a lot about cool things like that, and meet a lot of midwives, and hear a lot of the unconventional things, and it was very exciting. And then I went to Florida with my family just for fun. And then I went to Europe with my friends. I was in Switzerland, like the most beautiful area of Switzerland, right on Lake Geneva. And we were staying in this wine town. So all the wine we drank all week was like local, literally from the village we were staying in, which was, oh my gosh. I'm not a big drinker, but I drank wine like every night while I was there.
You cannot. You really cannot. It's like when you come to South Africa, you have to drink our wines as well because we are connoisseurs when it comes to that. Absolutely. So of course you have to drink the wine.
Oh yeah. And it's so much
Why
better
wouldn't you?
too. Like it tastes cleaner, and there's no pesticides or
Mm.
sulfur, whatever it is that's in the wine here in America. Because I'll have like a half a glass here and be done, but there I was drinking like 3 glasses a night, and I was like, wow, this is like water. I feel great.
And then when the better it is, the less of a hangover you get. That's the thing. It's all this cheap plunk that makes you have headaches and things. It's the good stuff that you don't actually get any after effect from actually. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's crazy. I was in Milan, and the craziest thing, like if you're a Tartaria video fan nerd, the cathedral there is, seeing it in person. I don't know the name of it. I don't want to butcher the name. It's some Italian cathedral, but the details on this cathedral literally look like something out of this world. Like even the doors are like 20 feet tall, and they have the whole story of the birth of Christ like engraved on them in delicate details, and the stones, and I saw it at night too, and it was just absolutely powerful. There's like no way. You just look at it and you're like, they didn't craft this with little hammers and tools. Like it was just insane to see in person. Absolutely magical.
Yeah, Europe is incredible. Your mother doesn't know who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Hello, Carmen.
I know, I forgot to tell her. I told my
Your
boyfriend,
mom
but I forgot
wants
to
to
tell
know who
her.
you're chatting to.
Talking to my imaginary friends up here.
Lovely. Uh, well, very interesting topic, and I think actually right on point because at the moment, I don't know if you guys heard earlier on, Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta is running a 30-day, I think it's Transform Your Shadow Work Challenge. Sorry, I just couldn't remember the name right now. Which is actually quite amazing. So if you guys want to know any further details about that, tune in. It's free of charge. We're doing it. We're all contributing to the channel all for the next 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
But very interesting
Very
topic
cool.
we bring it up tonight, which is the darker side of the feminine. Now, guys, please, this doesn't mean that we're not talking about the darker side of the masculine. It really is. We all have shadow, dark sides, and the way it comes out. But I think what's so important to realize that now, and I know, Carlisle, what when you brought forth the topic, it was great because it just immediately hit home to me as well. We do a lot of interviews with Jessie Zabota. And one of the things she was saying a lot is that the women in the system um, are almost worse, and in some instances worse than the men.
Mhm.
And you're often going to find there's female energy that's playing itself out there as well, either enabling it
Mhm.
or participating in it or
Mhm.
turning a blind eye to it. So just interesting because I know there's a lot of that, but I'd really be interested to hear what you have to say about that. So over to you, beautiful. It's so good to see you again.
Well, thank you. And it's so funny because I always am talking about, the good traits of femininity and being able to be vulnerable and being able to be nurturing. And I always am talking about how to, you know, embrace your womanhood and to make it work for you. And that's something I'm very passionate about. And so I was thinking, we, as a society, culture, whatever you want to say, continually talk about toxic masculinity and the fallouts of that. And I think that everything comes back to balance. And when you see women that aren't in the good side of their feminine traits, they go to the dark side of it. And I thought I was going to talk about it because like Halloween, spooky, scary stuff. Because I was watching, my boyfriend and I are watching Game of Thrones right now, going through all the seasons. And last night, one of the main characters said poison is a woman's weapon. And when you think about poison, it is a sneaky way of killing someone. It's deceitful, it's manipulative, it's detailed, it's subtle. It's that sneaky, you don't see it coming kind of attack. Whereas,
Yeah,
men resolve conflict. Like, oh, if someone does something mean to me, I'm going to punch them in the face and we resolve it there. It's a much more honest but violent way of solving things. And women don't have the physical power, so we had to find ways to be cunning. And I think that when our society rejects all the good things about femininity and only rewards women when they tend to act more like men, we end up with this like dark feminine traits. And men can be darkly feminine too. And I think I'll tell this story, but it brings it back to why we have a culture right now that's the claws of cancel culture are in the backs of everyone right now, is because it stems from those darkly feminine, gossipy, manipulative, take down someone's life traits. So I had someone who I barely even know go through my social media, took screenshots of tweets that I have liked, things that I've said for months, had been gathering them and watched hours and hours of videos of me talking to my mom on our show, probably on here on this show. Maybe she's watching right now, I don't know. But and put together this compiled things. In her mind, I had said a bunch of things that were extremely hateful towards the trans community and transphobic. And she said I was all these kinds of phobic things and basically sent it to a friend of mine who doesn't have social media as in an effect to kind of to tell on me and to put a wedge in between our relationships because she knows that we had different views on these things. And luckily my friendships are not founded in agreeing upon all the same things. They're something much stronger than that, and I'm totally capable. I take very big pride in the fact that I have friends with complete opposite opinions of me and that I can see them for who they are and not just their opinions. But that's the first time, when I was in high school and middle school, I was never in any drama. No one gossiped about me. I didn't have anyone stab me in the back. Like, it was the first time that something like that has happened to me. And it kind of like ignited that weird, like, fight or flight. Like, how they say fight or flight or fawn? Like, it made me want to fawn. It made me want to be like, oh my gosh, like, you're so right. Like, all these things I said, like, they're wrong and I shouldn't say them. But then I really sat with myself and I was like, okay, well, what are my beliefs? Like, the only beliefs that I've stated that could be misconstrued that way is that I don't believe that children should be given medicine or surgeries to change their gender because I think that is extremely harmful to children. And I don't think that biological men that have an advantage over women should be able to take their place in sports. And when you peel back, those are very rational beliefs. And even the furthest person on the left years ago would have agreed with that. But we've come to this point where we've let these things get so far because we are letting people's feelings run the show, and we're so afraid of hurting people's feelings that we're not allowed to speak the truth anymore, which is why we ended up in this censorship and why we're in this, I have to walk on eggshells around my friends because you can't, speak against any type of agenda. And so I think that we've rejected all the positive feminine traits, and then now we're kind of seeing the repercussions of what it's like when these women have nowhere to nurture, nowhere to put their goodwill and good faith, and then now it's being rewarded. Like people who tell on other people are being rewarded for acting, manipulative and gossipy and poisonous, and now that's kind of where we've ended up.
Yeah. I think it's so true what you're saying, in terms of the manipulation, because, and it's true what Carmen is saying in the chat as well. Manipulation is one of the most destructive feminine traits that there is. It's like that whole, as you say, poison in the water or poison in the food or whatever it might be, scenario. It's like sneak it in and just see what happens and sneak off again. I think when we look at I would say someone like that in this particular instance, I mean, for me, as you're speaking, it reeks jealousy. There's someone who clearly has a bone to pick with you because she sees you out there doing your thing, having a great time, and this is what's going on. So her reaction is to obviously not come to you and speak to you and what have you, which would be the mature thing to do, right? But instead goes behind and tries to break you down. For me, that's very simple. People do that because they have no idea. They're not in their own power. Anyone who does anything slanderous or manipulative or vindictive like that is certainly not in their own power. So they maybe have been brought up in an environment where they have to overachieve and they can't, or they're living up to someone else's standards, or whatever it might be. Bottom line is that when you're looking at that person is completely out of her power. So to do that means she's highly jealous. And really, at the end of the day, when we see that, for me, it's really an understanding. I actually have compassion for people like that. I don't say I like it because, as anyone knows, we always, I wouldn't say permanently, but we often on the hit list of others on this channel. We get called the craziest things and the worst names on the planet, but hey, that's what life's about. So the thing is, it's about understanding that people out there are going to do that. And when people are doing that, it's a good thing to look at. If you're the person perpetrating that, it's a good thing to look at yourself and ask yourself, why does Carlisle take up so much headspace in your head? Why? She's not paying rent. That's what I was just saying earlier on. I don't mind if I take up space in someone else's head. I don't mind not paying rent. Like I'll be in your head if that drives you crazy. But the bottom line is when people are feeling out of power, that's how they behave. And I think it's a great way for all of us to understand that, because what other people do is not about you. But it's more about your reaction, right? And I think this is how we grow, because people are going to show our shadow selves all the time. Remember when we look at law of attraction or law of correspondence? Literally, we made up our frequency, so we're putting that out there. Our vibration dictates what we attract and what we connect with and correspond with. Okay, so it really is, for me, that's an opportunity of showing that person compassion, because she really obviously is not getting ahead and feels that she's threatened by your being out there that she obviously wants, or what could be a myriad of reasons. But at the end of the day, her job would be to really look at empowering herself and looking at the parts of herself that she's shut down from. And that, I think, is all of our journey here, because we really have to look at the parts of ourselves when we feel jealous, when we feel angry, when we feel resentful. What in us makes us feel that way? And the more we can do that, I think, the more we're going to be able to, when we heal ourselves, we automatically heal the world around us, right? So I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us all to see the things that hurt us. And when we go out there and when we're in a bad mood, we shout at the whatever, the dog, or I don't know, the kids, partners, whatever. It's not about them. It's about us. And all of us need to come to that realization. And I hope she does, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because to do that sort of stuff is not cool. And yes, the manifestation of that can be in a myriad of different ways. I mean, the dark feminine energy is highly manipulative. It's highly, highly, highly manipulative. You know, when we're looking at, let's say, for example, the Eastern teachings, and a lot of people think that the Eastern gods and goddesses, that like, let's say the yogic, the yogic gods and goddesses are, depict evil. It's not about depicting evil. What they're really showing is the dark side of the feminine. So, like, you'll have Kali and you'll have like Medusa. I don't even know those are the two that are most well known to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, those goddesses are there to show us they are mirrors for our own feminine dark aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at pain, suffering, pain is the feminine. Eckhart Tolle, I don't know if you read his book, you know, The Power of Now. He talks about the pain body. The masculine energy has the ego in its negative polarity. The feminine energy has the pain body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the feminine energy is more water. So water it's boundaryless, right? When it has no, if it's not in a cup or in a ball, in a walled in somewhere, it's boundaryless. So woman, in her expression, can have no limits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in positive and negative. It's like the feminine energy in its positive polarity is intuition. And that is our superpower. But
Mm-hmm.
in its negative polarity, it's the pain body. And it manipulates, it steals, it's devious, it hurts, it causes harm to others. It,
Mm-hmm.
it, it has no understanding that it has the power to create that for itself. And I think that's a great topic to actually look at, to sort of look at what aspects of ourselves um, are in pain,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really what we're responding to, right? What do you say about that?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And it is so interesting that manipulation is the big one and the most dangerous one, because I always have thought about this, because when you meet someone, and you know, everyone can be manipulative in their own small ways, even if it's not conscious. But when you meet someone that's deeply calculated and manipulative, they usually have like an air of arrogance about them, and they think that they're smarter than everyone. But if you think about the root cause of manipulation is someone who's incapable of asking for what they want, so they have to manipulate to get it, which in
Exactly.
my mind is a lot weaker than just being able to say, hey, I need this. And I think that a lot of women can fall into that trap in relationships. They want their husband or their boyfriend or their partner to read their mind, and then when they don't, they get spiteful at them, and or they manipulate them into doing what they want. And like, that's like, you know, like we always talk about how men are narcissists and stuff like that in relationships, but I think that it's very interesting if it's the dark feminine or toxic masculine or whatever, they usually attract someone that is so kind and wants to meet their every need and will love them no matter what. And then it's able to really take hold. And then if you have a
Exactly.
mother that's in her dark feminine, you're going to grow up a deeply wounded girl because you had a mother. Like, I knew girls in high school who their mothers were so obsessed with them being perfect, they encouraged their eating disorders, or they got jealous of them when they would get a boyfriend. And it was like a very, you know, mothers and daughters usually can sometimes have a very complicated relationship. Like, there's so many people I meet that are like, oh, you're friends with your mom? Like, that's, wow, that's so crazy. I can't imagine what that's like. And because so many people had mothers who, you know, grew up without loving mothers, and then they're in that dark feminine. And when you grow up with that, you don't get the good feminine. You don't get the nurturing, the mother that's going to, you know, band-aid your wounds and kiss you and tell you everything's going to be okay, but the one that's going to kind of push you away and feel cold. And so I think that you're right, that it comes back to unhealed pain. And if you don't heal that before you have kids, then you will pass it on to them, and they will grow up thinking that's what women should be like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Firstly, Susan, thank you so much. We just got a donation. Wonderful. Thank you so
Oh, that
much.
is so
Really
sweet.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. Yes. Always wonderful. Really appreciate that. Thank you so, so much. It's so true when you talk about moms and daughters and the feminine. Eckhart Tolle is a fantastic author. I've got a great amount of respect for him. And he's the author of the books called The Power of Now, which came out many years ago, and The Power and a New Earth and stuff like that. I really enjoy him. And when I listen to his audio books, he's got this like very soft, sort of monotone voice, but I love it. It's like it puts one into almost like a hypnotic state. You kind of hear his words and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
flow with that. He's got a very, very good, amazing gift for putting that across. I couldn't honestly, when I read his book, the first one, The Power of Nine, I'll never forget, it was June 2005. For some reason, I remember that, but it was incredible. He spoke about the feminine pain body and the collective feminine pain body.
Mm.
Now, let's look at us women, okay? And I mean, I want to just say this because I think this is important that many of us actually don't realize that we are. If we just look at history in the last few centuries, the female energy has been suppressed,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So women are generally obviously physically weaker. So often you're going to get abuse. We weren't allowed to vote. I mean, in so many of the Arab countries still, and not just the Arab countries, women are seen as second-class citizens. They just there to kind of breed for men in so
Mm-hmm.
many ways. They don't earn financially, so they often have to sell themselves, whether it's physically, emotionally, literally have to prostitute themselves. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
think about someone going to a job that they hate every single day to earn money for a company they have no desire to support or whatever. You literally are prostituting yourself
Mm-hmm.
in that way. So collectively, imagine the collective feminine pain body, okay,
Mm-hmm.
as a massive pool. And let's just say pain blood. I mean, that it's quite gross for me, but let's get really graphic here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is why when a time for a woman's menstruation, okay, when a woman, and especially uh, PMS, premenstrual syndrome, oftentimes women will be super irritable then. I mean, your body, I mean, your breast can get sensitive, your belly swells up, you
Mm-hmm.
just get grumpy. And so many women I know just want to kill those poor husbands of theirs. Just like,
Yeah.
run, you know.
Yeah.
So my point is that would be, and this, I want to say this to each and every person, a woman's menstrual cycle and the time of menstruation, and although it's been made to feel like often it's a dirty thing, and it's not. It is the most powerful time for transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to say that every woman does, and if you're an amazing man who has a woman partner and you're in tune with her, you can work with her in this as well. It's so amazing when men get this as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the time where the woman automatically and energetically connects to
Mm-hmm.
that collective feminine pain body. So it's like you can imagine every woman is connected to it. And a lot of the time it's maybe shut down, but when she has her PMS or menstruation, that's when she connects again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're drawing on heightened and magnified pain that doesn't just come from you, but it comes from the collective feminine consciousness, the
Mm-hmm.
pain body. I'm not talking about the beautiful side of things now. I'm talking specifically about the pain body because that's what we need to heal. So I want to invite every woman, when you have PMS or when you're menstruating, and when you're feeling as grumpy as crap and you're dying just to take those pills and take the pain away, and
Mm-hmm.
because what we do is we medicate usually. And I want to
Mm.
say, just try and not medicate, even if it's for half a day. Just try. Sit with your discomfort. Just sit with yourself. Breathe into it. Get your pen and paper and write down the emotions that are coming up for you. Because what happens is emotions can't be expressed often. That's
Mm.
why many of us have so many emotional issues, right? Because we don't know how to express them. So we feel, and most of us women have been taught that good girls don't complain, good girls don't shout, good girls don't argue. We just shut up and we just, it all just builds up inside of us,
Mhm.
and we want to like explode like the Michelin man type thing. So it's, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So at that time is when you sit with yourself and you breathe into your body and you write down and you ask your body what emotions are coming up for you. What are they related to? How are you feeling?
Mhm.
I promise you, when you sit with yourself for that time, and that's how you are going to dissolve your pain body.
Mhm.
Because when every woman takes her responsibility back and transmutes her
Yep.
own pain, the collective pain body gets less and less and less and less and less
Mhm.
and less. And eventually, it's just there as a memory, as a
Mhm.
barometer for us to go back to and realize how it was when we didn't understand things clearly.
Mhm.
So that is a great, 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 and it works. I honestly, there were times that I would have pain right down into my left leg, all the way down, always on my left side, always on my left side. And I
Mm.
would, when I realized how to do it, I would then sit with myself and I would just breathe and I would write and I would write. And I would allow my emotions and anger. And I was angry and things when I was a child that suddenly came up. And I was furious about that. I remember having one time when I was 3 years old, and I was very cognitive when I was little. And I was 3 years old, and my parents knew if you gave me a hiding or a smack, it was a waste of time because I simply went back and did it again. I knew from a very young age you were not going to disrespect me by hitting me.
Mhm.
That is something you don't do to me. I just, from a baby, that was it. And I remember being somewhere and my parents were away and I was being babysat by someone. And this woman gave me a hiding. I went back into that moment of being this powerless 3 year old who just wanted to attack her.
Mhm.
I just wanted to attack her. And I knew that I couldn't. Something in me knew that if I did that, I was going to get myself into serious trouble. My parents weren't there. I was being babysat. This person, she already cut my hair the next day without my mother's permission, that kind of thing. So, what I'm saying is, and it was incredible because just to sit with that feeling of a powerless 3 year old and understand how that was creating frustration in me 50 odd years later. And then I just by understanding it
Mhm.
and acknowledging it, that part of me healed.
Mhm.
And I want to say that because every time we look further in ourselves and really the menstrual cycle, and even if you are menstruating, you're still ovulating or having certain times, your body's still reacting to certain things.
Mhm.
You'll still feel that time of the month, even if you're not having your menstruations anymore. Your body is still kind of doing its thing. I mean, let's not go into that now. But and even when you're just feeling sensitive, even if it's the full moon that affects you, if it's
Mhm.
because that's a very, very powerful time for a woman as well. I mean, we were actually talking the other day on one of our other shows. I want to do full moon mania. Carlisle, maybe we should do a show on full moon mania.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, see what happens. But honestly, women are affected by the moon. Our
Mhm.
moods, our emotions. How many times have women committed murder and atrocities over the full moon? I mean, if you go and research it, you're going to see that courts have let women off for murder because of their. It was actually they were proven that the full moon affected her moods to that
Mhm.
extent, or their moods to that extent, and their emotions to that extent. So
Wow.
emotions out of control. You see, emotions are the water element. Think of water, a dam that bursts.
Mhm.
It is dangerous. There is no boundaries. Think about a flood. Think about a tornado. Think about a tsunami.
Mhm.
Think about that is feminine energy in its angry negative polarity. And water is the strongest of all the elements.
Mhm.
I mean, you just think of a wave at the ocean. It just knocks against that rock, and over time the rock erodes, but the water continues.
Mhm.
That's the emotional element. So important. 80% of our body is water. So, on a beautiful, positive level, it's flowing, it's gorgeous, it's cleansing, it's purifying. But negatively, of course it is. Water is stronger than fire. Oh, hell yeah, it douses fire. Water douses fire. So, in its negative polarity, it becomes the tornado, it becomes sludge, it becomes the swamp, it becomes slimy, it becomes gooey, and all
Mhm.
sorts of dodgy creatures of the night, creepy crawling all
Mhm.
around it. So, think about that. And now transmute that into how does that translate into a woman's emotions?
Mhm.
Or a man's emotions. Don't think men don't have emotions. They just shut it down a lot. But ask a man that's trying to shut down his emotions, and suddenly, when the water and the emotions come through, men that are military moguls and have fought wars, suddenly, when they have the emotions, they don't know what to do. It's like it nearly kills them. Seriously.
Mhm.
Emotions are very powerful, and they are your superpower. If they are used in their positive polarity, you don't just support beautiful, amazing women and men, you support each other, you support Earth, you support nature, you support the planet, you support everything. It is
Mhm.
water is the sustenance of life. Women are the creators. We are nurturers. We create. Water grows things. So it's
Mhm.
one and when we can see that difference, then things change.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you're like you said, emotions are so powerful. And I don't know who told me this. It was a long time ago before I even, got into health and all these things, but they were saying they did studies on women who'd committed suicide. And an alarming number of them had committed suicide when they were in that PMS part. Like their hormones were acting up the most and making them feel the saddest and the most crazy. And it was like you said, like sitting with that pain. And you just think about if they had maybe just sat with it just a few days longer, maybe everything would have changed. And our hormones are so powerful, and they have been suppressed through so long, whether it's medically through birth control or just, emotionally. And this is something super interesting. Someone posted this link a few days ago how the US national women's soccer team, they tracked their menstrual cycles and did diets and exercise to support their hormone fluctuations and how that helps them win the championship. And I was like, that is so cool to see. And I only saw one person post it, but then if you would have seen, like, when that woman made the men's football team as a kicker, it was news everywhere. And I was like, it's just very funny how it's still like that is going to be rewarded more if a woman makes it onto the men's football team. She was probably like, I don't think she was that good. I think it was because the college probably wanted some funds or some attention or something. But like, you know what I mean? Like that was everyone's Instagram story for like that whole week. And then these women do something amazing that, requires a lot of dedication and effort and really works with their biology. And then you see like, one person posting about it, but it's very cool to be a part of that cyclical nature. And it's cool to see that people are kind of catching on how to work with it rather than suppress it, because we know what happens when we suppress it is, and that's like, oh, I'm all over the place. But it made me think, I was thinking about this in my car on the way home from my dentist appointment. because I knew we were going to talk about this. And I was thinking about how a lot of these people, like the experience I had with that girl who's being a tattletale on me or whatever, they think they would have been in the past the people who stood up for the oppressed people, but they would have been the people burning the women at the stake.
Exactly.
They think they are the witches, but they were the witch hunters essentially, and that's the modern day witch hunt. Isn't has nothing to do, you know, with spells and things like that, but everything to do with people who don't conform to whatever the religion is. And right now, it has nothing to do with God and everything to do with agenda.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with that. You know, you're talking about the modern day witch hunt. Absolutely. I mean, anyone who's on a platform, and especially the religious spirit, isn't it crazy? I mean, if you're looking at 300 years ago, they were burning witches in the name of the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, how on earth, when you're looking at a religion like Christianity that is born of blood, it's birthed of blood, everything is about blood sacrifice, okay? So I'm not surprised they do what they do. And as you say, it's nowadays, it's modern day. It's not like you're now going to run to someone's hut and burn it down. That still happens, as we know, when we're
Yeah.
reading the news in modern day world. But it's now, as you say, on social media, and it's women. The majority of these people, that enjoy these witch hunts, I agree with you, are women,
Mm-hmm.
and they call themselves Christians and doing this in the name of God and Jesus and the Lord and the Holy Spirit. No, 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 no. Um, if you are asked to harm or hurt someone, or absolutely try and degrade someone publicly or something like that, rest assured that is not coming from a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like that. No one says you don't stand up for yourself and you don't speak your mind, but you can do that in a very, very graceful way
Mm-hmm.
and a very, respectful way. You don't have to stand there slandering, sending photographs around, name calling. Anything like that, you have to know is coming from Kali or Medusa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of those.
Mm-hmm.
So really, nothing, and because I'm certainly not your traditional Christian, for example, I was always told when I was younger I was the child of the devil, and I never even for one second thought I was a child of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember asking God in my prayers many times, um, how do I know that it's you? And the first time was the most profound time for me, because the voice came back to me loud and clear, because you are never asked to harm or hurt anything or anyone. Quite
Mm-hmm.
the contrary. So when I have a mean day, and and rest assured, I can have my cage rattled on those days too. I'm well aware that that's my bad mood playing up, you know. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the things that matter, are you one that breaks those down or breaks others down? Or are you one that builds others up?
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very good indicator about you. Because if you are out there slating others, that means you have not for one second begun to do the inner work that you need to do on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Rather go out there, and if you're out there talking about amazing things about this one is so awesome, that one is so great, you might not agree with them, but there's other things that you might like about them. So
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. Then we're building each other up. That's how we do it. Not by scraping at our weaknesses and trying to trying to break you down so that somebody else can feel better. That
Mm-hmm.
is really the underbelly of the feminine energy. Guys will do it differently, and I'm sure everyone has the same ideas and thoughts when they're angry or frustrated or quite narcissistic or whatever. But this is more about the feminine energy, the pain body, and
Mm-hmm.
how it works. It's whining, it never stops. It won't stop feeding itself. And the more shit you create in your life, the more it feeds off that shit, the fatter
Mm-hmm.
it gets. It's like an obese person. that just can't stop eating. The
Yeah.
same thing with energy. It just can't stop getting enough of itself. So if
Hmm.
you are one of those people who are doing that in any means, then just take a step back
Hmm.
and observe. It doesn't mean you've got to like what everyone else says or you've got to pretend to like it. No, you say, no, that's not for me. It's not my gig, but I can understand why others like it, but it's not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
don't
that's
have to.
no, that's like what I was thinking is it's so interesting because I have friends, that I'm like that I think so it's weird to meet people now and know that if they knew some of my opinions they wouldn't like me anymore, but I've never met someone and thought that. I've never been like, oh well, if you don't completely agree with me I will completely write you off. And that I think is like something that's been sneaking up on the culture in the past few years, and all the events of the past 2 years have just solidified it and made it so much worse. And I feel like people get weird around this time. Like everyone is going crazy. And I don't know if it's because we're about to have all these elections here in America, and so it's like the news is going to start pumping up all these things to get people more angry at each other, or maybe they're putting some in the air or the water. I don't know, but people have really gotten a lot crazier very recently.
But you know what? I so agree because it's this all divide and conquer. And I've been saying this has been actively happening since 9/11 when they first crushed the towers, blew up
Mm-hmm.
the towers, because that was don't trust your neighbors, your neighboring countries.
Yeah,
The neighbors
yeah,
are a terrorist. Anyone that looks like a Muslim must be evil.
yep.
So we created that. And then, of course, with this whole COVID thing, the spiky flu thing happening, it's now you don't trust your friends, you don't trust your family, you don't
Mm-hmm.
trust your children. You now have to go and speak to your neighbor, call the police on your neighbors because they're feeding hungry people. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. But what is really beautiful as an observer to observe human nature is to see how easily human beings are being controlled and how fearful our minds actually are. But what is also incredible is that those who are not, they stand out. The trailblazers in today's world are standing out. And what's beautiful to see, and there's a number of us out there, is that people like you, your mom, Bryce, who we work with a lot of Andy, Jesse, all of these people that are coming out and saying stuff, creating awareness is really what is creating that wave of change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about learning to love yourself, take care of yourself. When you look at yourself, you won't need to go and take snapshots of other people's social media and send it to a friend because you think you're doing them harm. I mean, who even thinks that's okay? I mean, who even does that? I
Mm-mm.
mean, if it's proof about child sex trafficking, then yes, I want to see it, you
Right,
know?
yeah. Yeah.
And I want to act on it. I definitely do. Yes. Give me proof, give me concrete proof, give me stuff like that. Absolutely, where we can
Mm.
make the world a better place, shake things up. But when you're doing it individually to someone because you got a beef with them that she's prettier than you or got longer hair than you or got more roles than you in the movies, that is, stop it. Just stop it. Go
Mm-hmm.
and create your own success. You have it in you to create your own success. Each and every one of us have our own unique beautiful story and footprint and fingerprint to leave behind that is unique
Mm-hmm.
to us. So when we are trying to be annoyed with other people because of their success and stuff like that, it's a waste of time because you're wasting your own time that you could be doing beautiful things with your life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. Every one of us here has a contract with God to be here and to do what we're doing. We just need to remember what that is. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way we're going to do it is by going within.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. That's I feel like is it's not a strictly feminine trait, but like chronic victimhood, I feel like is something that is very common as well. Like I think that one people will have one thing go wrong and then it kind of just spirals into like the whole woe is me thing. And I think that when people started talking, everything was about, feminism, misogyny. And it was all this kind of, very curated way. And I think that, that made really strong women my age, I know, start using words like that and being like, oh, well, they did this because I'm a woman. And like, it's just, it's like it was never in their head before until it was implanted there. And that's the interesting thing is about the girl that sent my friend that message. I read it and it read, like a script essentially, because when all these things that are happening and the way that it's forming all these people's minds, you can tell it's coming from an outside source because it's not written like an original thing. All these things are they sound scripted because they're all coming from the same sources, from, the movies, the television, the news. And that's why, you watch the news you can watch it in every different state, but the news anchors are all saying the same things because we're being fed a corporate script, essentially, whether people know it or not. And so that is like the most interesting thing to watch. I know so many friends of mine that I would have felt like we're, not friends, but maybe like further acquaintances that I would say were more so free thinkers or whatever. And then you can kind of tell when someone starts getting sucked into something, when they start, saying the exact words from the script and kind of becoming somewhat of a puppet without even knowing it. And that's like, you're kind of telltale when they start using these like little buzzwords here and there.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's like when you are in your own power and when you're happy in your own life, you don't actually need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Really, really, really. And it's true. Yeah, Carmen, you were saying as well, society rewards the victim.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It really, really does, but that's also got to change.
Mm-hmm.
That also needs to change. We are not victims. We are
Mm-hmm.
far from victims. Far from. We are super powerful human beings. And when we realize that, we can then all just connect, support, enjoy, you know, embrace each other's differences, realize we're all playing for the same team, but in different positions on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be interfering with my position here while you should be watching yours there, because that means you're not watching your position,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really what it's about at the end of the day. And honestly, it's about turning within, looking. We become so used to material goods making us happy, and the
Mm-hmm.
material world that is our happiness. And when we look at the heart center, the heart chakra, you know, the richness we talk about there is not the richness of things. But sadly, what happens, you can imagine, let's say the heart chakra, it looks like a sun, okay? And you can imagine each little ray of sun has now attached itself to a material good or a person
Mm-hmm.
or a thing or a relationship. So your
Mm-hmm.
heart gets completely weighed down with all these things, money, jobs, fear, 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 no trust, because the heart is all about trust. So when we lose trust in ourselves, we then place our trust in the external world around us. So now when we
Mm-hmm.
start looking within, we dissolve those things, because the richness really lies within us so, so much. It's inside of us. And that richness of spirit is honestly what we really are all seeking for,
Mm-hmm.
because then you drive your own bus. You are then able to create, you're able to manifest effortlessly. It's not something that you try and do. Life becomes abundant, which
Mm-hmm.
means money becomes abundant, which means, but you also then realize that you haven't sold yourself out to money. Money is an energy. Your health and your well being is so much more important.
Mm-hmm.
Let all the material things go that you need to. Sell your stuff, minimize, get rid of it. You'll be amazed at what that does, because the less you need around you, the richer you are within you. And
Mm-hmm.
that really is what I've noticed. Phyllis, thank you so much. Phyllis donated us $10. That is so cool. Thank you,
Oh,
thank
that
you,
is so
thank you.
sweet. Thank you, Phyllis.
Yeah,
That's, I know,
absolutely.
I totally agree with everything you're saying. And I think that this younger generation is kind of getting self-help and self-idolship confused. And I think that a lot of these things, like there's a difference between self-love and helping yourself. But a lot of these like things I see on social media and the way people start talking, and if you meet someone who's 22 but read like 8 self-help books, they're still not doing too well. Like the books are not as good as they need to be, and I think that they're just kind of like this watered down version of, if you ever feel an uncomfortable feeling, you can't handle it, and it's your anxiety and it's everyone else's problem, and it's feeding into this kind of, we're turning everything into some type of mental disorder or problem or things that need to be conquered, and every small situation becomes like a whole other identity. And because these kids have no identity, like you were saying, they turn to these disorders and things to make them have some type of thing that they can hold on to for identity versus having an abundant life and seeking it the other way. So yeah, I think we definitely have a lot of work to do in encouraging this young generation, but also not coddling them to the point of letting them grow up to be brats, because that's like a lot of these people that think that they're helping themselves, I think, are coddling themselves. And we have to encourage people to be gentle with themselves, but also, be resilient at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a tough world out there. I got to tell you, when I think back of my childhood, I mean, I grew up on the farm. TV wasn't even in my country until I was, I think, 10 or 11. And we
Wow.
only got, and because I lived on the farm, we only got a TV when I was about 16 or 17. We couldn't have TV before then. And then it started at 6 in the evening and ended at 9 at night. And we had
Wow.
Dallas was one of our, remember JRU?
Uh-huh. The old
That
show,
was
yeah.
my first soapy ever. Oh my gosh. I was like, wow.
That is so funny. I love it. It's so funny.
So it really is crazy, when you really look at the my whole lifespan coming from that to all of this. I'm like, whoa, what actually happened there? But I also think that it's so amazing that we have these platforms and that we can share these stories and that we can share with each other. No one is bad, no one is horrible, no one is awful. We just do sometimes shitty things when we feel like we're in shitty situations. You know, I'll never forget. I don't know. I mean, I was watching Dexter, and I love that because I was actually going back and understanding that psychopath mind. And so I thought that was a perfect program to watch. But I'm not just thinking, what was I going to say about that? Gosh, it just slipped my mind what I was going to say about this. I was like so worried about offending viewers that I had to explain why that it completely slipped my mind as to what I was going to say about Dexter. Anyway, I'll think about that for the next show. I was like very worried I was going to be judged here.
Yeah, right. It'll come back to you like when you're in the shower or making tea or something.
And I've completely forgotten. Probably just as well. So we'll have to bring it up again. But yeah, I think it's amazing. So I'm loving these conversations though. And I would love for us to continue more of them as well. Who is this young? I mean, I must say, I am horrified. I've always considered myself quite non-judgmental, although I'm not under no illusions of grandeur that there are times I definitely know I am being. But there's this young dude, is it Dylan someone? This
Yeah,
trans boy,
Dylan
right?
Mulvaney. Yes.
That's him. I mean, the other day I just happened to see him pop up on my news feed, and I don't know why, because I didn't even think about those, so that my phone couldn't even be hearing my thoughts. I know they hear us talk and they put things up. I definitely haven't spoken about anyone like him. But what horrified me was here's this fully grown man dressing up like a 12-year-old girl in ponytails and in bedrooms and zooming in and having a girls' slumber party with 12-year-old girls and then having these massive sponsors sending him this stuff where now we're doing masks and we're doing this. I don't know, hey. That there's
Hmm.
something so wrong about that for me. It's just there's something not right about that.
No, and
And
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that specifically got me in trouble because I liked a tweet about Dylan Mulvaney going to the White House to speak about trans issues, and Dylan's platform became big from TikTok, and they did Days of Girlhood. So they documented their transition from male to female, and they're like day 100 of girlhood. But you're right. The offsetting thing about it isn't that someone wants to be a different gender, because that happens and that's okay. The offsetting thing about it is that it's almost fetishism of girlhood. It's not, I'm becoming a woman and I'm going to wear dresses and do makeup. That's fine. Someone wants to do that. I don't care. That's up to them. But the making it a girlhood thing and carrying tampons into the bathroom, and you're right. It is the hyper little girlness of it that I
where
think.
does he where does he put his tampons?
No, they're
Sometimes.
not. Not. No, it's not for. It's to hand out to women who may need them. Apparently, Dylan was in the bathroom one time, and someone said, "Oh, does anyone have a tampon?" And then when you document your whole life on social media, I think Tampax sent her, I don't know, a bunch of boxes of them to give out to other women in bathrooms. I don't know. It's the big corporate. I mean, Tampax, those tampons are full of chemicals and stuff, and women shouldn't be putting them inside anyways. But yeah, so yeah, you're right. It is the offsetting thing about it is it feels like it's the fetishizing of girlhood and those types of things. It's not.
Totally. And that, of course, me and I would now look at that. And of course, I'm now going to dissect this and I'm going to go and find all his videos and I'm going to go and dissect him. But I also don't want to give him the views. But there
Mm-hmm.
again, that's not up to me to decide. I just find this, it's very disturbing. It's very contrived.
Mm-hmm.
It's normalizing this, I think, in ways that it shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
because I think lots of youngsters are confused. So, you know, it's kind of like pulling them in that way. I mean, I was a tomboy when I was a kid. I lived on the farm. I was wearing overalls and I was out with my father all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone, yes, anyone who would think that I should be a boy.
Mm-hmm.
No, when I was 16, suddenly didn't want any of that anymore. Then I wanted the makeup and the girly dresses and all of that stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a phase you grow out of.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel as well with all of that stuff, it's taking people away, especially confused kids. And as you say, doing this whole girly thing. And quite frankly, it's a sacred thing being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You can't suddenly have period pains and stuff like that and
Nope.
lactate and what all of these guys are speaking about. That's absolute nonsense. So
Yeah.
there's definitely that fetishness about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there again, it's interesting to see where all this is going to lead in the future.
Yeah. No, it is very interesting. And that's, I think that's like everyone was, didn't really care. And it wasn't until we saw firsthand so many kids becoming confused and so many kids getting pushed medical procedures on. And we know how evil, big pharma and the medical industry does not have it's different if it's, they had their best intentions, but if a kid is a landmine for millions of dollars to be made in these procedures and things like that, then it's completely different. And you have to take into account that there might be some motive. And once a kid's 18 and they're an adult, that's their decision. But it's our responsibility as adults to protect this next generation of kids, and we haven't been doing a very good job yet. So we
I
have to,
agree.
say so now, even if it does make people mad or make them uncomfortable, because it's better to have a kid that it was forced to wait and then makes that decision when they're fully mature than a kid who makes it when they're. I mean, being a teenager is so confusing. You wouldn't let a kid get a tattoo or make a lifelong decision because of how they felt. And so I'm like, you just can't. That's just craziness. It's craziness all up and down. And these poor kids are already going to
Absolutely.
have so much to fight against and so much to go through and so many things being put into their bodies that we don't know how they're going to turn out. You know what I mean? Like everything's polluted and all the food's bad and they have a lot to go through. So we can't add that to it.
Because your kids really aren't your own. I mean, when they're born, they immediately become a product of the state.
Yep.
Um, they are forced to be vaccinated and jabbed and
Yep.
eat foods that are so bad for them. So I really just think we need to start a whole new revolution here. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, decide, and it's true, pharmacia help confuse them. Absolutely. It's a very confusing thing. I mean, and not just that, you look at drug addicts as well. I mean, you go to any AA or NA meeting, and I've attended a few with just out of interest sake to see what's going on there. And these guys in a 2 hour meeting have like 3 15-minute breaks where they probably smoke 2 or 3 cigarettes,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all highly medicated on
Mm-hmm.
now pharmaceutical drugs. So all it is just a transfer. I mean, I know this is slightly off the topic we were talking, but it's a transfer from one addiction to the next. It's like there's
Yep.
no solutions being offered. There's no
Mm-hmm.
solution, just an alternative. So we're
Mm-hmm.
looking, this is the alternative. There's no solutions because they don't want us to have solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And this world is just getting more and more depraved as time goes by, which is why it's so important for us to know God, to know ourselves, because when we know God, we will know ourselves. I mean, Rumi has got a beautiful quote that says, I searched for God and I found only myself.
Mm-hmm.
I searched for myself and I found only God. And that is so true because, God lives within us. And when
Mm-hmm.
we are tuned in enough to connect with the God force that lives within, we will definitely be fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's, yep, all these things are just obstacles to get there.
Indeed. Beautiful Carlisle. It was so fun having you back. And 2 weeks' time, we've got this beautiful lady back again, everybody. So it was so fun to have you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me again. I always love our conversations.
Oh, me too. It was so good, so refreshing. It feels like a therapy session almost. Get
I
all
think
my
it's a
thoughts
therapy
out.
session personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you wanna say in closing to our viewers?
Um, I don't think so. I think, and just
Yeah.
stay out of your dark feminine and encourage the girls around you to stay, in your good, creative, nurturing, vulnerable side. And don't be afraid to say anything because someone might screenshot it. Just, there's only so much you can do.
And anyway, be loud and proud about it.
Exactly.
If you don't want to say it, if you don't want it out there, don't say it. It's as simple as that. So
Yep.
be cool, be kind. That's it. Just be cool and be kind, and we're all going to be happy.
Amazing.
Lovely. Thank you to all our beautiful viewers for joining us. So happy to have beautiful Carlisle Studer back with us. Carmen Studer, you are on Friday, so I'm advertising now already. Carmen Studer is on with me on Friday.
Oh, cute.
So
That'll be fun.
yes, Carmen. So it's going to be fun. I've got both mama and daughter on this week. Lots and
Aw.
lots of fun. I really enjoy that. So look forward to seeing you guys back with Mama Bear on Friday. Yeah, okay, she's got it. We confirmed for Friday, everyone. I was waiting for Carmen to come
You're like,
to pop in. Carmen.
yeah.
Okay, see you Friday, but we've also got Tom Althouse tomorrow, we've got Jesse on Wednesday, we've got Kerry Saint on Friday morning as well from Australia, the forced adoptions. Guys, this is one lady we really, really need to follow her stuff. Australian, she's been on my Australia channel. She's going to be a regular every second week. She's a product of the forced adoptions in Australia. And her stories are just horrifying. And she's doing some amazing work in Australia. So please let's support the channel. Kerry Saint focus on Australia. She'll be on with me again on Friday.
Cool.
Beautiful, guys. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Please give us a like, share, and subscribe, and just share, 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 share. Thank you, thank you, thank you.